Okay, this is Trophy Gold, Hester's Mill Part 2. We are without Jen today, but that's okay because we work around it. It's actually very fortunate that last time Jen's character actually separated from the two of you, and so we can easily uh, uh, account for that character's absence next time. The what we'll do is there's an old Powered by the Apocalypse technique called love letters, which we will do next time. It's basically like a little bit of fiction that accounts for where Jen's character was and what she was doing. So we will do that next time. But for now, we have our returning characters who are Korkuluk and Diane, and we are ready to go. So a very quick, brief recap. You all were you were traveling through the lands of Torrens Bend, trying to find the abandoned village of Hester's Mill in order to retrieve valuable antiquities that you hope to find there. There is a story about Hester's Mill and Torrens Bend, which is the old lord from like a century ago was a tyrant and specifically a religious heretic, and this was infuriating to the people, and they overthrew him, and they actually destroyed the keep, and it was a big bloody affair. That story has never made a lot of sense because the story is that a bunch of like unarmed villagers were able to rise up against this lord and his soldiers. You all actually got a little glimpse into what's really going on, but actually it was Jen's character that did. you two specifically did not. But basically there was this terrible creature that was attacking the fort, and that was what truly like brought down Lord Cauldron. I think that's pretty good. You all had found the road to Hester's Mill after having spent some time searching for it, and you've got just to remind you, got a good sense of like the lay of the land, basically. So going down the road, there was what appears to be a campsite because you see like a fire that's been freshly made, glowing in the darkness. A little further ahead, there is a roadside shrine. And then a little further from that is the actual village of Hester's Mill. To the north of the village, there is what appears to be a large, very intact farmhouse. And to the south of the village, there is what appears to be like a gallows where people would have been hung. Also, one other little thing that we sort of learned last time is one of the characters managed to get their hands on a ledger that belonged to Lord Galdrin, and that ledger contained clues that Lord Galdrin was very was exacting a very punitive taxes and tolls on the people. So like there was that aspect of what was going on back then as well. And you all were there. Jen's character, who's the name of which is escaping me at the moment.
Rasai,
right? Yes, or Rasai maybe. Anyway, that character was going to scout ahead at the camp to see what they could find. They never came back, and for our purposes today, they never came back. And you two were there. I believe Diane was getting in touch with the spirit world, and you got a sense of a very vindictive spirit, an angry spirit, and it was approaching you all, and that's kind of where we're at. Do you have any questions about that kind of bumpy recap?
Pretty clear.
Okay.
I have one quick question.
Sure.
That sense of the spirit that wants revenge, could Diane tell a location for that, or is that the the kind of buried casket in the fort that he's detecting?
That's different. The buried. Oh, that's something we should mention too as part of the recap. There was a woman buried in a box that Diane found, and there's a lot of mystery there because who knows who this woman is? She said that her name was Beatrice Mandrake. She seemed like a very grand, sort of dramatic character, and Diane basically put a curse on her to basically keep her silent, like basically magically silenced her, but she sort of like counter hexed Diane, and we haven't quite seen what that looks like yet. So, but no, this is a different spirit, and its location is fast approaching the both of you. That's its location. So let me pull up I'm going to pause the recording for just a moment. Yeah, so this spirit is fast approaching. I will ask you, Diane, you sense this. You don't know exactly where it's at. You know it's angry and it's getting closer. What do you do in response?
Do I have a sense that it's like entirely a spirit, or like is there...
There is a physicality to it as well. You can, once you sort of like anchor your senses back in the real world a little bit, you can also hear very heavy footfalls rapidly approaching.
Yeah, in that case, Diane will sort of like get Corkluck's attention and just be like, "Quick, we must hide. Something approaches."
All right.
So he's going to try and like find a spot to hide where we can observe this spirit as it passes.
Yes, I will also tuck myself out of the way as much as I can. I'm also going to get my wooden mask out in case I should need to actually use my mask ritual to completely disappear.
Okay, awesome. Diane, why don't you do a risk roll for the hiding? So, Brian, any thoughts on what could go wrong here if Diane fails?
Not just spotted, but spotted as he's facing the wrong direction. You know, the spirit comes up behind him.
Oh yeah, it's good. I think it really could just come down to you both are going to have to engage this thing, and maybe in combat or in some other way that you don't want to. So, okay. So in that case, let's go ahead and gather your dice. You get one light die for exploiting a skill, piece of equipment, or the environment.
I mean, I'd say like knowing that it was coming is perhaps like exploiting my skill with spirits.
Yeah, I think so. I think I don't know though. I'm going to say no because actually you've sensed its spirit in the sense that like you've sensed its anger but I think this is more of a like physical thing that you have to hide from.
Does the forest itself provide enough cover to be the environment?
There might be there's a lot of tall overgrowth. I think that might work. Yeah.
Yeah, so we just like hunker down in some bushes.
Yeah, because there's lots of overgrowth. We've described this as a very, very overgrown place. Like you literally can't see the road, right? Unless you're like looking down for it. Good, I like that. And you get another light die for accepting a devil's bargain from either Brian or myself. My devil's bargain is no matter what, this thing has a scent for you. It has your scent, even if it doesn't. Whether it finds you or not, it has your scent and may show up in the future.
Not knowing what the malevolent spirit is or the angry spirit is, I don't know if I've got a clever suggestion for a devil's bargain.
Fair enough. So that's your option. Do you want
it? Sure.
All right. So go ahead and roll 2 dice. You can add your dark die if you wish.
That is a 5.
All right, 5 is. Really need to get the dice rolls out. Basically a complication, right? On a 4 or 5, you succeed, but there is a complication of some sort. I describe the complication, then you describe how you succeed. I think the complication is that you actually drop something in your haste to get into the bushes, and whatever this creature is will grab that thing. I'll let you choose, but you have to pick something from your equipment, Blaine. Unless you want to add your dark die. Try again for a full 6. You're muted.
Sorry, yeah. Yeah, I think like there's an heirloom compass in my backpack. I think that's what I drop. And maybe that's how it gets my scent is
Yeah.
'cause I've had that for a long time.
Yeah, I like it. That's good. So you can go ahead and strike that from your inventory and go ahead and just describe like the moment where you sort of like get to cover, and then I'll take over with what you see.
Yeah, so like after I came back from, observing the spirit realm and told Kirkluck and us to hide, rushed into the bushes, like the cord of my compass snagged on like a branch or something, so it was just like left hanging from the branch, and we went in probably like another 20 feet until there were like bushes tall enough for us to hide in, and probably there's like a fair amount of like tree cover, like brambles, like woody growths, not just branches that were sort of like peeking out through.
Nice. And the two of you are there hiding, and you eventually see what it was. It comes up to the part of the road that you're on. The moon is, as previously described, the moon is high in the sky and casting off a pretty good amount of light. And you see this creature. It is very tall, about 8 feet tall. It has the head and jaws of like some sort of wolf-like beast. It's standing on two legs. Big claws. It's just covered in this like sort of dark matted fur, and it has dripping from its jaws a bunch of blood and viscera and black feathers, a lot of black feathers. And it is just like moving back and forth, like smelling the air, smelling the ground, like, right? And it hunkers down a little bit to investigate the compass. And I think it's like eye level with you, Diane, but like it doesn't see you. It sees the compass. The compass actually is probably the distraction here. And it doesn't take the compass, but it's clearly smelling the compass, and then it just like steps on it, and the thing just flattens and shatters, and then it just continues on in the direction away from the village, or away from the direction you're going, but it continues on down the road. You can wait long enough to gather your senses and then continue. Korkalek, what do you do after the creature passes? Also, you guys get to name this too.
Naming this thing. Oh, well, Diane, you should name it.
Compass Crusher. Black-snouted Compass Crusher.
I like black-snouted.
Black snout.
Just a
This is
black snout. It's pretty good.
This is a funny, I don't, pet peeve is too strong a word, but a thing that I notice in language is that in English, it seems like in my lifetime, everything gets ended with ER. So it becomes the crusher, the lurker, the walker, the runner, where we used to have other words that didn't end in ER for our beast. It's not a dragoner or a unicorner. And so it's just a thing that always kind of catches with my brain a little bit.
Do you want to call this thing a black snout or something along those lines?
I think we're probably going to want to mention more than just the snout in the description.
It may not. That may not sell at the tavern when you're talking about this thing. To some degree, you're creating tall tales and legends here, right? So, it's got to be evocative.
That's a really good point for naming.
Yeah, it's got to be evocative. Yeah. Got to be something that gets people terrified. They have to be able to recognize it.
Yeah, although now you've got me thinking about all the ER names. It's the black snouted crow stalkers.
Don't take it that far. In fact, black snouted crow stalker is a very great name. I would say go with it.
And this could be this specific creature like this, or it could be, maybe there's a whole species of creatures like this, but in any case.
I think Diane would tie it back into the vengeful spiritness of it.
Yeah.
So the black snouted phantom, or the black snouted vengeful specter or something along those lines. That might be getting too long of a name there.
Well, in any case, be thinking on it, and we can make a final decision when we kind of need to. But, so what do we do next, Korkaluk? What's your next move here?
You said it was coming from the village, heading away. Was it heading towards the fort, just off bounding into the woods?
I would say it's just heading off in the general direction of the fort. Yeah, I think that's about right.
Okay. From Rasay's vision, I remember a sort of swarm of crow-like beings climbing over a wall. So I got the feeling that's what we're.
There was so a couple things. I don't think Rasay told you all about that. I feel like Rasay kept that to herself.
Okay, so we don't know that. All right.
Yeah, because I specifically asked about that. So I don't think the two of you know about that. It was just one titanic crow thing with a bunch of baby crow things in a nest of black tentacles rising up, right?
So here's a question. She described the tentacle as being crushed by the falling stone. Did we see that, or was that not visible to us?
That was not visible to you, because that was the kind of what snapped her back into the present day. She saw a version of that was not what you saw. Yeah.
Okay.
So.
All right. So removing that knowledge, then speaking as a mannequin, I will turn to Dion and say, the scarecrows they built in this town are quite top-notch.
Yes, well, I suppose you would know I was never much of a farmer or a scarecrow connoisseur.
By the way, we had talked last time with our stars and wishes that we wanted a little more backstory between how our characters knew each other. And I thought, looking at your skills and your background, you're a former artisan and a hedge, you're essentially the exact same skill set that my creator probably would have been. And so it got me wondering whether I came to you wondering whether you were my creator. I may or may not, I might be able to recognize that you aren't, but I'm tagging along in the hopes of finding out more, something like that. I don't know. Think on it.
Yeah. With what I've thought for that. I think he definitely is not your creator. And he wouldn't like keep a secret of that, so it's really going to be a matter of just like how much Korkaluk interrogates him to get to that level.
Excellent. All right.
That seems like a good, like, if we have a scene like at a campfire at some point, that feels like a good thing to interrogate at that time. It's good, like, campfire talk for sure.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, it sort of feels like then proceed, well, in a sense towards the village, but we have those 5 options. Speaking of campfires, the campfire, a shrine on the road, the village itself, the farmhouse, the gallows.
Yeah, and you can cut across to go to the farmhouse or the gallows without going through the village, right?
That's what I was about to ask, yeah. Can we reach all equidistantly? It sort of feels like, given that it's nighttime campfire, I would suggest we see what's cooking there, literally.
Okay, so if there's no objections to that, you are heading down the road. Although you don't really need the road anymore because you can kind of just see where everything is roughly, but you're there. And, it's nighttime, and I think that is maybe not, when you first arrived here, I described like everything being kind of golden and orange and purple and like blazing with this like hot overgrown life, right? And at night, it's a little different. It's a little bit more, it has more of a feeling of like cold decay, like things that overgrow and then die and overgrow and die over and over and over again, right? So you'll see like these tall stalks of corn that have just grown wild all over the damn place, but they're rotting, right? Like if you reach out to touch one, you're just gonna see a bunch of like grubs and rotten corn kernels. You will come across a cow carcass. Who knows how long it's been here, but it is totally picked clean. Like it's just bones and the tiniest bits of flesh left on it. And there's a smell, this very, very deep, rich smell of soil mingled with the smell of fur and blood and feathers, like a bird cage, And you get to the camp, you see the fire burning, no sign of Rasay anywhere. There appears to be no one at the camp. You've been keeping an eye on it as you approach. You've seen no movement around the camp apart from just the fire itself. But you definitely see like tents and a bedroll, or there's a bedroll, there's like equipment just strewn about. Like someone has kind of gotten comfortable here, right? But they're just not around at the moment. Korkaluk, what do you do?
You said tent singular, correct?
Tent singular, yes.
I almost feel like we should call out a greeting rather than prowling about. Dion, how do you feel about friendly approach?
As long as we're not too loud, that thing is still out there.
All right, good point.
Like if there's like, I think maybe just not approach stealthily, but don't necessarily announce ourselves.
Okay, all right, yeah. Let's creep up then and try and listen, see if we can hear any voices inside the tent. Perhaps Rasay is inside that tent right now. Maybe there's a love letter laying on the ground between the fire and the tent.
Right.
Yeah, try and prowl around as quietly as we can and see who's here. And
go ahead and do a hunt roll for me.
All right. A die for interacting with the environment.
You get a die just because, and then you get 1 for exploiting your skills or equipment.
Okay, so I have a skill of obfuscation. So can I kind of tiptoe through the
See
door?
what might be hidden here. Yeah, I like that. Go ahead.
Yeah. All right. 2 3s.
Hmm. You are able to tell that there's no one there. And if you get up your confidence to step near the campsite a little more, like assertively, you will see what I described for Rasay last time. There's a bandolier next to the tent along with some other equipment, and the bandolier has withered human hands tied to it, dozens of human hands tied to the bandolier. What do you do?
A couple things. Peek inside the tent just to confirm that no one's there, see if there's any further items within the tent. And then also kind of really scrutinize the ground to see whether there are boot prints or sort of paw prints from a black-snouted phantom crow stalker.
Yeah, we'll come back to that in a minute. What are you doing in the meantime, Diane?
Diane is definitely getting a look at that bandolier of hands and seeing if that's like probably like inspecting that from like the side of his knowledge of curses to see if it's like involved in a ritual maybe or something like that.
Oh, I see. Like just to see if this has like a ritual component to it. If it's like yeah, I like that. Do a hunt roll. You're definitely asking questions about the world, and I think you've justified the second die. So go ahead and roll 2 light dice.
It is 2 5s.
2 5s. Go ahead and take a token. I think I'm just gonna the terrible thing I'm going to reveal is that there is no magical or ritual component to this. These are being kept as either trophies or as a reminder. It's one or the other, but it's something that the owner wants to be reminded of.
How fresh are these hands?
They're withered. They're long severed. Like they look like. I mean, they're very tiny because they're so withered and desiccated.
Right. So there's not like a single fresh one hanging at the end adjacent to.
No. There's some that are fresher than others for sure, but not any that I would say were severed in the last few weeks. So. And can I just check in about tokens real quick? Where did you all decide to start tracking those until we fix the sheet? And how many do you have currently?
I've just got one. I just put a little note underneath the ruin.
Okay, great.
Yeah, since we've hopped to the new sheet, I'm tracking it old school for the moment with a coin.
Okay, great. And how many are you up to?
I have one, I think, if I'm correct. We had 2 written on the digital spreadsheet, but I think we each spent one.
You each spent one, yeah.
So I have one.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to put yours down here too. I just like to keep track of how many you all have. Great. You can give me a hunt roll as well, Korkulek, because you said you were looking for like prints or something like that, right?
Okay.
If you have a tracking type skill, I think that's appropriate here.
I have mimicry, but is that tracking in reverse or
no,
with obfuscation? I'm sort of an inverse tracker.
Yeah.
Single die?
Unless you have a piece of equipment, might be worth doing because a single die is pretty dangerous.
It is, yeah.
You can always do the backpack equipment as well. Yeah.
That's a good point. What is within that long list of things? Well, how about this? Can I take? There's a campfire going. Can I take a burning brand out of that and kind of use that to illuminate the ground while I'm looking?
Oh yeah, I like that. Yeah. I think that's. Oh yeah, I think that's pretty good. I'll take that as a
okay.
a found equipment, like maybe like an improvised torch. Make like a torch as a found equipment. I think that's good.
All right. So 2 dice. 2 6s. Haha.
Nice. Go ahead and take your coin.
All right.
Or your token, rather. Yes. The answer is yes. You see, it's a little hard to tell because this is a cleared spot, so you can see the dirt underneath. It's not just overgrowth. And it looks like the spot's been cleared it actually looks like it's been cleared for a while, actually, and looks like it's regularly tended to and cleared. That's an interesting observation. But you do see what appears to be some boot prints, and quite a few boot prints in and around, which you would expect to find. But then you also find a little further away from the fire a single pair of large canid type paws, very big, very likely could have belonged to the creature that you just encountered.
Are there any boots laying around this campsite right now?
At a glance, yes, I'll give you that for free. You can see at a glance, you will find a pile of clothes and boots that have been, everything else is kind of neatly placed around, but these are not. These look like they were shucked, kind of like old corn husks.
All right, as an antiquarian with skill in myths, if there's one thing I know, it's that when you find a campsite and a pile of clothes and nobody around,
right.
I would like to essentially rifle through the clothes, but also pay enough attention to what this clothing is that should I see someone wearing this again tomorrow,
good.
that I know exactly who they are.
Do another hunt roll for me. Get that on the table. How are you justifying your second die?
Skill and artifacts?
I'll take that. Actually, that's particularly important here. Go for it.
All right. Oh. 2 1s.
Oh no. We'll come back to that.
Also, we've rolled 2 1s, 2 3s, 2 5s, and 2 6s out of 5 dice rolls thus far. It's a little weird.
We'll come back to this. I think it's not going to be great for you. You do lose all your tokens, though. So erase to get rid of those. Let's go to Diane. Diane, what are you doing in the meantime?
I think just like poking through whoever's campsites for like trying to find something valuable.
I will give you, there's enough like just common equipment here, or at least you'll be able to find something useful. I will let you have something free from the drop-down list that you can add to your gear.
Okay.
Good choice.
Can I ask a quick gameplay question?
Sure.
In ruin rolls, you can add a dark die and keep pushing that. In hunt rolls, can you? Or is there's
no ruin roll in Trophy Gold.
Sorry, thank you.
Yeah, but for risk rolls, you can add a dark die to keep going. Hunt rolls, you may not. No.
Okay.
So you're all doing this, and that's fine.
Just a quick note, one of the options in the drop down is a tent one person. I don't think I'm going to take that option. He comes back, there's nothing there.
Yeah. You are quite startled, Korkuluk, to see what you thought was a large rock nearby. In the shadows, at least, it looked like a big rock. You are startled to see it move and stand up on its hind legs. It's a bear.
Oh.
No need to name that in the bestiary. It's a bear. You can tell it's a bear. And it is not rushing you, but it looks kind of angry, and I'll tell you why. It has a bear trap on its leg.
Oh.
But it has managed to fight through the pain and be here right now, and it's angry. So what do you do?
All right. I have a yellow liver in my bag. I'm going to pull out that yellow liver.
Okay.
And kind of squat down, cautiously approach this bear, offering out the liver. You know, when I get close, I'll give a little toss so my fingers don't go with it. And then if it is willing to accept this liver as a snack, I will attempt to unleash the trap on its leg.
Oh, nice. I like that. This is definitely a risk roll. Blaine, any thoughts on how this could go poorly?
I mean, aside from the obvious,
I'll take the obvious. Your obvious might not be my obvious.
okay, like the trying to take off the trap could like cause it more pain and enrage it further and like get him mauled by a bear.
I like that. I don't know if I can do any better than that. That feels like the most natural thing here. So let's talk about your die pool. You're exploding equipment, so you get your light die for that. Devil's Bargain light die. I say that no matter what, this bear, how would I characterize this? No matter what, this bear becomes attached to you, Korkuluk, either in a friendly way because you help it, or in a protective way because you helped it, or maybe in some other way because you offend it, or something about the liver. I think there's, in any case, I think this bear will almost become like a sort of, oh gosh, like a kind of a spirit, a thing that is attached to you. Maybe it shows up sessions from now, right? If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Unless you kill it, because unless you have to fight it and you kill it, obviously. But even then, that could be a problem, right? So, but in any case, I think that like this is a moment, and it's a moment that might like have an ongoing impact. Something about the bear attaches to you. That's vague, but I'm keeping it vague on purpose. Blaine, do you have any better offers than that?
No matter what, like in sort of the scuffle of what happens or in the aftermath, the bear just wrecks the campsite.
That's pretty good. I like that too. That's maybe simpler and better. Mine's very abstract and weird.
Yeah. I want to go with the abstract weirdness, the potential of a recurring bear theme.
Yeah, I'm into it. I don't know exactly what it means yet, but I'm excited to find out what. So,
yeah, it also sounds fun because in real life, the school I teach at, our mascot is a bear. And
so, nice. Good. Go ahead and roll.
All right, so
roll
one
that.
light die, one dark die?
Two light dice. Yep.
Two light dice, okay. We got a 3 and a 5.
You're going to succeed. The bear will not be a danger. I think the complication is going to be, I kind of like where Blaine was going with the wrecking the camp thing, but it wrecks the camp not because of anything you did, but because you get the sense that like the trap was laid by whoever made this camp, and the bear knows. The bear's pissed. So if you want to avoid that, you can add a dark die to roll again. Try to get a 6.
I think it's okay.
Okay. Go ahead and describe it. What does it look like in the scene?
I'm picturing the bear taking a kind of a giant wrinkled snout, if you will, to the yellow liver at first, then a tentative lick, and then nibbling on that a little bit. I very trepidatiously creep around to the trapped paw and spend some time trying to figure out, do I stick this porcelain finger in, or do I stick this finger in that's made out of vines and twigs? Which one's going to be less likely to be broken should this go horribly wrong? And then decide in the end to just stick my axe in there and not risk my fingers and leverage it apart with the axe. And then give the bear a little pat on the hindquarters and tiptoe back towards the campfire.
I think before that,
Mhm.
after you remove the trap, the bear approaches you in a friendly way and sort of like opens its mouth, and you get this like it's sharing its breath with you, if that makes sense. Like it's sort of like breathing, and it's almost like an offering from the bear, this like sharing its breath with you. And I think that's it. There's no, what that was, unclear, but I do want you to take a condition just so that we have, just to memorialize this. Noted however you wish, but basically like the idea is that the bear shared a breath with you. And then it strides over with great purpose, disregarding the presence of Diane completely, and fucking wrecks the camp. I mean, like, destroys the fire, tears down the tent, tosses shit everywhere, and then it just keeps going. It kind of disappears into the tree line nearby.
Like we probably see, like, as it's approaching, Diana's just like picking up a bear trap. I'm like, oh, that's useful. And stuff in his back, and then he like sees the bear coming up. He's like,
yeah.
like
might want to hide that. Is that what you took from the camp? A bear trap?
Yeah.
Okay, nice. Good.
I noted it in the chat.
Good. Awesome.
From my perspective, sharing breath with a bear is probably the most meaningful thing that will happen in this incursion.
It was neat. I'm curious to explore what it means. I don't really know what it means, but we'll find out. Cool. Well, I think we're pretty well done with the campsite. I'm not sure there's like much more to do here, mostly because it doesn't exist anymore. At least it's not standing. What's next, Diane?
I think Diane would want to go check out the shrine.
Okay, that's just a little ways up the road. We'll talk about that in a minute. Let's just take like a 3-minute break. Come back for you after. Okay.
Okay.
So the shrine is of a very common sort in the land. It is a little building, actually, maybe the size of, like those sheds that you can get at like Home Depot. They have like, you can go for, it's like that size. It's like those little like backyard sheds. Also, I don't know if I mentioned it last session or not, but this is a new set. The Road to Hester's Mill. And your set goal for the Road to Hester's Mill is to learn the secret history of Hester's Mill. You have the known history, but you can learn the secret mystery. You might just stumble on it, but you can also spend 3 tokens to learn it. So just be aware of that. But yeah, this shrine, it's a small shrine. It's just maybe like a few dozen paces like off the road. And it's just this little tiny building. The outside of it is decorated with symbols that are sacred to St. Hester: a cornucopia, a sickle, sheets of wheat, gourds. This is very, very common. Like these shrines dedicated to various sisters, they have like little stone plates that are carved that have like symbols that are sacred to that sister or associated with that sister. And of course, Hester has many nicknames, but one of them is Hester of the Bountiful Table or the Bountiful Harvest. So, what do you all do? What's your first move here?
think Diane will like recognize that it's a shrine to Hester, and will find like, are we like near fields at all? Like it's not like a wheat field maybe?
You kind of, it's all, yes. I mean, the lands are like totally overgrown with just corn
Right,
and
but
wheat and stuff all over the place.
yeah, so
defining
Diane
like
will,
a field is hard, but yeah.
yes, Diane will just like find a patch of, at this point, probably wild wheat, clip it with his sickle and like leave it an offering.
Yeah, I mean, you would actually go into the shrine. There is an off. These shrines usually have an offering spot inside the shrine. There's a little door, which doesn't appear to be locked or anything.
Yeah, so he'll take that inside and try and find the offering table to leave that.
Inside the shrine, it's again this very tiny space, but inside there are about a half dozen small prayer plinths that you would like kneel to pray. And then right in front of those, there is a statue of Saint Hester. And in front of the statue, there's an offering bowl. And the statue of Saint Hester it's posed in a very traditional manner. It's this woman, kind of the saints are usually depicted as very big, powerful women, right? This woman whose arms are crossed, and she has a sickle in one hand and a cornucopia in the other. And this is somewhat reminiscent of the statue you saw over by the fort, except the statue over by the fort is a mockery of this, right? Because it's a man holding a sword and a sickle, right? But in any case, that's what you see. So what do you do?
Like I'll put the sheath of wheat in the bowl and like kneel at one of the plinths to do a little dedication. This is sort of like, I don't think Diane is actually like a super devoted to the sisters.
Yeah.
But there is, a lot of superstition around them, and he's like, it's almost like a forlorn hope, hoping one of the sisters is going to help him break his gesh.
Interesting. Oh, that's right, the gesh of the Witch of Nevask. Well, that's so interesting. A gesh is, a gesh is normally, it's like a thing you can't do, right? It's like a,
or like a thing you have to do.
Right, precisely. It's just a compulsion, right? Or this, like this magical mandate or restriction, right? Or prescription. What is it? Remind us what is going on there.
I don't think we really covered it, but like, basically my idea is that like the gesh is the reason that he's no longer an artisan. So like he was just like a simple craftsman in a town somewhere, and like we can say it was Nevask, and like the village witch, the Witch of Nevask, like demands like certain level of support from the village in exchange for her services. And for whatever reason, she was not satisfied with Diane's offering, because he was probably like a little bit just resentful that he had to support her in that way, so he didn't put all into the work, and like he made her a shoddy chair or something. So I think it's like she forbade him from like making anything that lasts.
Interesting. I like it. That's good.
So obviously that ran him out of being a craftsman, because you can't sell a whole lot of stuff when it breaks in 3 days.
It just breaks immediately. Yeah, it's good. Okay, well, I like that as a bit of color. What are you doing in the meantime, Korkaluk?
Is the shrine large enough for 2 people to enter? It sounds like it.
It is, yeah, kind of just barely. Yeah, I mean, there's about like, I'd say 4 prayer plinths, so it could fit up to like 4 or 5 people pretty comfortably.
Is the condition of repair or the sort of state of maintenance of this shrine, is it clear that somebody's been coming here and using it, or is it overgrown like everything else is?
Do a hunt roll. Skills or equipment?
That skills and myths. maybe applies.
Myths is a stretch. Maybe because this is like the last time this was in regular use was only 100 years ago. It's hardly the realm of myth. Yeah.
Perhaps, but I don't know.
Say that again.
Artifacts would be another skill.
I'm a little more into that, especially if you give me a little bit more there. Like, how might artifacts be helpful?
Oh, since that I'm an antiquarian, I feel like as a mannequin orphaned, I'm trying to essentially acquire knowledge of what human religions and religious beliefs are, and almost cataloging it in a computational way, sort of. I
like that. Yeah, like the artifacts of people and their religious traditions. I like that. Yeah, go ahead and make the 2 dice.
3 and a 1.
Okay. You are both in the shrine, praying, examining this little space. It's still nighttime. Did you open or close? Did you close the door behind you, or is the door still open?
I believe I would have left it open.
Okay. You hear quite clearly because of the open door, although there are little tiny slot windows as well, but you hear the crunching of the overgrowth beneath something's feet around the shrine. And you hear this low rumble, this low growl. You hear this snorting in the air. You smell it. This is that thing that you encountered on the road earlier at the beginning. It has circled back. It has followed the scent of the compass, although you don't know that necessarily. It has not gone into the shrine yet, but it is like behind the shrine. Does that make sense? Like it's sort of like behind it, and you know it's there. And I guess I feel like there's one other thing I want to say here. You can sense it, you can smell it. It's big, it's stalking around. Corklook, what do you do?
Dion, I believe I saw you pull a bear trap from that encampment. Maybe we should blockade the one door into the shrine for a moment.
Yeah, see if we can catch it in its own trap.
So what are you doing here? I'm very intrigued by this burgeoning plan.
So it sounds like setting the bear trap in the doorway.
Yes.
But inside?
Yeah.
At the threshold.
Okay. Keeping the door open then, or?
My own feeling is if we were to sort of slam that door shut right now, it telegraphs everything. It telegraphs.
I think it knows you're there.
We're scared.
I think it knows you're there, just to be clear. I think it knows you're there. I think it's like also, it's clearly stalking, right?
Yeah, stalking is the key word here.
Yeah.
So, I feel like a trap in the doorway, and then we try to negotiate.
Or a trap closer to the statue, and then when it's stuck, we topple a statue on it.
Ooh.
Get a little double trap going. But we then have to lure it into the position where it would step on the trap.
Is this the sort of the size of the statue, the scale of it, the position such that we could get behind it? And
I think so. The statue is, I mean, bear in mind, it's not a big building, and there's not like much place for it to fall, you know? And the creature itself is 8 feet tall. It is going to barely fit in here. I mean, it's like going to be hulking and pressed in there if it can get inside, right? It might even, like, because of its size, it might even take a second for it to get to the door, right? So I don't think it's a bad plan, but I think everything would kind of have to go perfectly, right? Like, it has to hunker down and then you drop the statue on its head, right? Like, it would be that kind of situation.
So in that case, maybe just the bear trap plan and then use that to get out. Although, are the windows like large enough for us to get out of? And if
No,
necessary?
they're like slit, arrow
Okay,
slit windows. Yeah.
Yeah, so that it still might make sense to have the trap a little bit further in so that we can get around it. That also might be a little bit better disguised to like just put it like in the shadow of one of like the plinths.
Yeah, let's just go with that. So I'll let you lay the trap. The creature does come around to the front. Are you both hiding at this point as best you're able to?
Maybe that's what we use the statue for. We're just like crouched behind it.
Behind it, yeah, just to keep a little bit out of sight.
Here's what I would like, if possible, is because when you lay out a trap, you need to anchor it to something. Otherwise, I mean, it hurts, but it's
Right.
not. Can we wrap the chain from that trap around one of these prayer?
The plinths.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Entanglement for the beast.
I think that's fine. Yeah.
And then backtrack a bit to duck behind the statue or whatever.
Yeah, and to be clear, all you're really going to be doing is just like pressing up against the sides of the statue in the shadows, hoping not to be seen. You can't really like hide behind the statue, right?
I don't want to call out and negotiate, or try to. And we're not in a good situation here. We are literally cornered.
The creature. So do you lay the trap as you described?
Yeah.
Okay. The creature, which we should definitely name at this point, I think I like Black Fanged Stalker. Kind of good. Or, yeah. Do we have we settled on a name yet?
The Black Fang Stalker works.
There's no objections. Stalker is so specific. I have a feeling it stalks all sorts of things. It's just generally into stalking.
I mean, listen, everybody needs hobbies.
Yes, indeed. Here's the thing. It is just standing outside the threshold of the shrine. It is hunkered down a little bit like it's ready to pounce, and it kind of moves on all fours toward the threshold of the shrine, and it stops. It can't go in.
Interesting.
So what do you do?
Seems, Mr. Vengeful Spirit, that you are not allowed on such sacred grounds as these. Does it respond?
It does not. It's not.
Not like verbally.
You can't tell. Yeah.
Yeah, like,
you don't know if it's what it's responding to necessarily.
yeah.
It just continues to it makes like tentative movements to try to like pierce the threshold, and it just like can't. Like it stops.
Yeah, in that case, can Diane try and get a feel for like what's stopping that on like
I actually think that's pretty good. Do a hunt roll with the spirit realm is very appropriate here. Go ahead and roll 2 dice.
Okay. 4.
Take your token, and I think the thing I'm going to reveal is the terrible thing. It's not the power of Saint Hester or of any of the sisters that prevents the creature from coming inside. There's something darker and more malevolent that prevents the creature from coming inside. How do you know that?
I think like just Diane slowly notices just like a coldness to the room that like at first wasn't immediately present, because when you just come into the room, and then it's just like, it's very strange, the temperature difference for such a small room at night. And so like that twigs him off that there's something else going on there, and that slowly creeps into a more malevolent, like raising the hair on the back of your neck type feeling.
And you will also at this point notice that there are large black feathers strewn here and there on the floor of the shrine.
There's something in the rafters above us.
There are no rafters. The roof is literally right above your head. But no, there's nothing above you.
I feel like we need to like sort of check the undersides of you're saying plinths, are these made out of stone, or is it like a fabric and wood structure people need?
They're like little stone like prayer altars basically that are they're just set on the ground. I mean,
so movable. So Are they hollow? I'm going to kind of start.
Yeah, they're not. They're just like a flat surface with two high sides.
Right.
Like a little table almost.
I feel like we've stumbled into a co-opted shrine, that this is not, it's not dedicated to whom we believe it's dedicated to.
What the hell did I just pray to?
Well, so it sounds like you're investigating the plinths, is that correct?
Yeah, or, right, I guess.
How are you doing it? What are you doing?
With kind of one eye socket attuned to the doorway where this beast is not, this black fang stalker is not yet able to pass by. I'm kind of doing it like this, I guess. I'm kind of looking at the door where the stalker is, and then I go over to a plinth and kind of poke and look, but I kind of look back to the stalker to see, am I looking in the right spot here? It's sort of a hot and cold game with a...
I think, as you've described it, I think you could possibly make a case for obfuscation, because you clearly think that there's something else here, right? Like there's something hidden about this place. That feels like the way you're approaching this, especially in the way you talked about, like, we might be at some other thing's shrine right now, or a co-opted shrine. Give me a 2 dice hunt roll.
2 dice, right. I'm also starting to question whether there's something on the roof outside that we did not even notice when we walked in.
That would be interesting.
Yeah. 2 4s.
4s.
One double today for some reason.
You don't notice anything, at least a couple of, maybe you turn over a few of these plinths. You don't see anything, nothing sticks out as super obvious. Take your token, but I will tell you that you also find what appears to be, not appears to be, indeed is, it was kind of in the shadows near the floorboards. You didn't notice it right away, and it's like laying parallel to it, but you find what looks to be like a long, about 2 feet long, oily black, glistening tentacle. It appears to have been shed or just dropped there. It's fairly fresh looking. It's not dried out. What do you do?
All right, so Diane, you may know more about St. Hester than I do. Are shedding of oily tentacles a normal part of her seasonal cycle of birth?
The answer is no.
Diane, how do you feel about I'm of two minds here. A part of me feels like since things went kind of well with the bear, maybe were we to remove this tentacle from this shrine, this black fanged stalker outside will not tear us into tiny little pieces. Or maybe that tentacle is the only thing keeping us alive right now. How do you feel about this?
Well, if you'd like to test it out, you could always pick up the tentacle and try and go outside. Seems, at least for the moment, we're safe from the creature. We could try and wait it out, since it can't seem to come in, but...
All right, one other idea. I have this axe. What if I partition this tentacle into two pieces and we fling one out the door and see what happens?
Try.
All right, I will take my axe and give a mighty sever to try and slice this tentacle in half.
Take another hunt roll, 2 dice, because you're using the axe.
Right. 2 ones. Oh my god. Time for different dice. This is insane.
Wipe those tokens out, please.
God, I'm sorry. Very, very sorry, Diane.
And at this
for clarity, for rules, does him rolling 2 ones wipe out my tokens or just
No,
his?
just Corkalux. Yeah.
Good.
Which,
No apology necessary.
Boy, it's not good. As soon as you chop the tentacle, like the moment that the chop makes contact or the blade makes contact with it and severs it, you hear this like loud, like the cawing of a bird, but it's somehow wetter and more visceral and more braying, if you can imagine that. And it's loud, and it's coming from below you. And Diane, you can see that the statue is currently moving. It is being pushed out of the way and by something below it. Diane, what do you do?
This might be time for a small ritual of rewind.
It may be.
But there's a backup plan if you don't have a better idea.
Yeah, well, let's see what Diane comes up with. But that is a pretty good backup plan. Essentially, the statue is being moved out of the way so that whatever's down there could come up to where you are. Oh, we can't hear you, Blaine.
Oh, sorry. I was asking Korkaluk if they had any rope, by any chance.
I think you can all have rope if you want.
300 feet of twine, and I am more than happy to rummage in this backpack for a bit of rope.
Twine should do.
No, I'm about to do something probably very foolish, and I need you to be ready to restrain my body.
Glad to do so.
That sounds great. Very promising.
And I am going to cast Switch and run up and touch the wolf creature.
Oh, what an interesting idea. I'm very into that. Well, it's a risk roll. What could go wrong here, Brian?
So many things.
It's a lot, yeah.
Right.
I think what could happen is that you make the switch, but whatever's coming up from down below manages to get a hold of your body and drag it down below.
two other thoughts. There is a bear trap in this doorway. So there's that liability waiting there. And I don't know how the switch itself will go. I don't know how much control Diane will have.
I think you get to define it right now with the failure. I mean,
in that sense that, he switches, in this ritual, switches bodies with another. Does the other retain control of his body at that moment?
I think so, but you have to imagine it's going to be very confusing for that person, and maybe
right.
Like,
but
who knows how that might go.
It's also a being that did not want to be in this shrine and could not enter this shrine. So
yes.
That's explosively, horribly wrong somehow.
Yeah, I think that's the fundamental problem is it can't come in here, and you're sort of like forcing it in here. So that could go really, really badly. Well, great. You get a light die if you exploit the environment, your skills, or your equipment. What do you think about that, Diane?
There's sort of like a little bit of weird overlap between like curses and rituals in general. So
I think the more salient thing, as you've described it, is possibly the twine that you're using from, or that's going to be used as a backup to tie you up. I feel like that is the more salient thing for like how the situation doesn't completely blow out of control. The curses just feels a bit like a stretch. So the second light die is Devil's Bargains, right?
Yeah, improvisation, which this is very improvised.
Yeah, improvising is definitely a little bit more, that's also a little more salient. In any case, you got your die.
Yeah.
Devil's Bargain. Boy, this could go in so many different directions. I think my Devil's Bargain is, I think my Devil's Bargain is, I think you just might be trapped in this body for a while, no matter what. Can define that a little more precisely. I think you'll be trapped in this body until the sun rises. Brian, any other Devil's Bargains?
Not that I can think of in this moment.
Got one offer on the table then. Blaine, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll take it.
All right, and you have to roll the dark die because of the ritual, so you've got 2 light and 1 dark.
Yeah, well, plus I'm putting my mind in this creature's body, so that's definitely a risky.
Yeah, the ritual just, I think the dark die for the ritual just subsumes all of that, I think.
The dark die, purple. First we'll roll the 2 light dice, and then we'll roll the purple. All right, so the dark die was highest, and it's a 4.
Is the dark die higher than your current ruin?
Yes.
Then your ruin goes up. I think it's pretty obvious why. I think just this is a traumatic thing to do. The complication is going to be kind of as I've described it. I think the creatures get hold of your actual body and pull it down into the hole. I don't think you're in any immediate danger, but I think there is the basic problem of getting your body back that you're going to have to cope with. But you will be able to... Actually, I think that's where the ruin comes from, because you are, once you make the switch, the magic that keeps the Dark Fang Stalker out of the shrine physically harms you after you make the switch. But you can enter the shrine as the Dark Fang Stalker because it's you entering the shrine, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I love all that. Describe what the ritual looks like.
In this case, I think it's like
Oh, also,
Probably,
if I can interrupt you real quickly, I'd also like to add, just for people watching the video, if the dark die had not been the highest die in the pool, Blaine would have been able to add another dark die and roll all of them again to try to get a better result. But because the dark die was the highest, he has to stop. So.
yeah, so I think like it starts with like I'm approaching the creature and like very steadfastly looking into its eyes and like cut my palm and just like reach out and put my hand on its face.
Nice.
And then the switch happens.
The switch happens. And as soon as you like touch, I don't know if you're aware of it necessarily, Diane, but you're definitely aware of it, Korkaluk. Diane's body begins screaming in agony, and I assume you're using the twine to sort of like to sort of contain him in some way.
Yes, but let me back up a notch. Was he also drugged beneath?
That has not happened yet. That is going to happen. It has not happened yet.
Gotcha. Yes. So I will entangle arms and legs first as much as I can with twine.
As you're doing that, and I think you'll prevent. It's almost like someone undergoing surgery or something. Like by binding his limbs, you prevent him from hurting himself, right? If that makes sense. But the statue gets pushed to the side, and coming up out of it is this large crow-like creature. It's not. I say large. It's like about 5 feet tall, but it just looks like the head and wings of a crow, maybe like a little bit of body, but then the lower half of it is black tentacles. And this thing comes up, it has like, well, let me look at its habits and see what it's doing. It has a mouthful of rotten bugs and corn that just dribble out as it comes up. You caught it in the middle of dinner, I think. And it just like an octopus just slaps its tentacles around Diane's body and pulls it inside down this, like a trapdoor basically going down. And it's a masoned thing. Like there's a purposely built trapdoor and there's a ladder there as well. And it just pulls him down into the hole. Meanwhile,
to essentially sort of grab Dion and throw him such that his backpack lands into that bear trap. So there's a little tug of war here, or is it too fast for me to do that?
Oh, I kind of like that. I think that's pretty good. I don't even need a roll because I like how you've kind of set this up. And in fact, I think the really important thing that's happening here is the fact that Diane, as Black Fanged Stalker, can enter now, right, and kind of take over the situation. So I would ask you at that point, Diane, there's a struggle going on between Korkaluk and the creature to like drag your body, to not have your body dragged down. What do you do, Black Fang Stalker Diane?
I am sort of shouldering my way into the room a little bit awkwardly. We have mentioned it's pretty tight quarters.
Right.
So it's probably like that, that hunch down, go through, and then
you
stand up a
fill the
little bit
space.
more.
Yeah, yeah.
And then just like on like walking on all fours, just like charge forward, put like one hand on like the tentacle that has like wrapped around Diane, and then with the other just like slash out at this creature.
Oh, nice. I like it. And I think you could just take the creature. You could just kill it. Just describe killing the creature.
Yeah, so like the first is like I sever the tentacle that's holding Diane, and then it's a little bit like the instincts of the body take over, so it's very weird for Diane, but like the body is used to this sort of like savagery, just like tearing this thing apart, just. Yeah, that's good. And you just tear it apart. You just destroy this thing. It's like hissing and snapping and biting, and but you're much bigger. You're much more powerful, and you kill it. I think, as we've described, you were kind of stuck in this thing for a bit,
And I think what that means is, I think the way we're going to represent that is you, your spiritual remit to stay in this place, as it were, is ending, and you have to kind of go, right? Like I think you just have to go. I think you feel this beast that you're occupying, its spirit is sort of fundamentally tangling with yours, and you have to just leave. You can go stalk around other parts of the incursion for a bit, but you have to leave this place, and until you get back to your senses, back to your normal, like until you're able to kind of switch back.
Am I like still able to talk in this form?
No, you cannot talk. Yeah, you don't possess that faculty.
Which leads to the trauma in my mind right now, is that I saw Dion, basically slit his palm and touch this beast, and then he went into convulsions.
Right, started screaming. You try to tie him down. The creature grabs him. I don't think you may not even necessarily know that Dion is switched, right?
Right. I don't know who is whom right now.
Right.
So I'm stuck in a shrine.
It's the most horrible version of Freaky Friday ever, right? So I think from your perspective, Korkuluk, the beast just runs off, right? And we'll get back to the beast in a minute. But Dion, as it were, is, I think whatever ambient magic applied to him has been moved over to the beast, and Dion is able, and the switched Dion, that person is able to be in the shrine now, and it's not as painful for them anymore. And he says, "Where am I? What's going on?"
You are in the shrine of Saint Hester.
And who are you, Construct?
I am Korkuluk, a mannequin.
Yes, well, are you have you been set to maintaining the shrine? Is that your duty?
No, truthfully, I'm here trying to learn more about the history of this region, about the history of Hester's Mill.
He gets a little he kind of looks outside and he kind of sees something outside that gets his attention, and he begins to scramble toward the door of the shrine, and he says, "It's nighttime."
It is indeed.
The moon is high in the sky.
Where were you the last time you remember?
I don't know for sure, but I know that I have not seen the moon in many, many years. And he seems to be kind of transfixed by that.
Have a seat here. I will pull out some.
What's wrong with my hands? What's happened to me?
I don't honestly know. There's a chance a bit of magic may be at play here this evening. Almost like you're having a dream. Whether this is more or less of a nightmare than what you're used to is worth talking about.
The shrine. Yes, the shrine. My camp must be nearby.
It is. Right now, it's not safe to venture outside. I would suggest resting here until sunrise, and you can return to your camp then. It's probably safer.
Very well. I guess I think that's probably right.
What's your name?
That's not important. What's your name, Construct?
Korkuluk.
No, it's very twee. And he just sort of like wedges himself between the statue of St. Hester and the wall. And I assume you move the statue back over the hole.
Wedge himself right on top of the trap door or adjacent to it?
I mean, well, so that's a good question. What's the state of the trap door in the statue right now? It's up to you.
It's up to me?
Yeah, I mean, like, if you want to move it back over or whatever.
Wasn't Dion the one who severed the tentacle of the beast?
No, I mean like so the creature came out of the hole and tried to grab Dion. Dion, as the beast, killed the creature, and now the statue is still there, and the trapdoor is still there. Like, do you leave the trapdoor open?
I guess it would still be open at the moment.
Okay. There's a ladder that goes down and everything. You can go down there and check it out if you want.
I will offer this guy some food and water and see how he takes it.
He will.
No violent reactions to normal human food?
No.
All right. Yeah, I'll stick my face down into that trapdoor. I assume I'll need a light, so I'm going to need to pull some torches out of my backpack and light one.
Yeah, go for it.
Does that constitute torches and tinderbox? Are those separate items for a backpack?
So you always have a tinderbox, but a torch is a backpack item.
Okay, so I will light up a torch and stick it down into the hole and see what I'm seeing.
A little torch for you there. Take a hunt roll, and you get 2 dice because you're using the torch.
And one actually rolled underneath the box. 1 second here. 2 5s.
Nice.
How many times have I rolled pairs today?
Quite a bit, yeah. You get a hunt roll token.
All right.
And I have to reveal something terrible to you, or you encounter something terrible. I think you are looking down there. You can tell that the ladder goes down maybe like 10 or 15 feet. It's not very far. You can easily see the bottom. And you also get the sense that the space down below is bigger than this space up above. Maybe just something about the air or something about the way sound kind of travels, but you can tell it's bigger. And you also hear the distinct wet slap of probably tentacles on stone.
Inside the chamber below?
Inside the chamber below. There's something else down there.
Definitely closing the trapdoor. If I have the strength to position the statue over it again, I will.
I think the 2 of you together can make that happen for sure. And are you just going to wait out the night then?
First, I'm going to stick my head out the edge of this shrine and call out, Dion, if you can hear me, come back and take a deep breath. I think you're out there somewhere because I'm in here with a stranger.
Well, let's talk about that. What are you doing, Dion?
Actually, I have a quick question beforehand. You said I killed the creature. Do we get the gold?
You are, yeah.
From that?
Yeah, you're going to get all that in a moment.
Okay.
And we're going to name it as well. But I'm just curious what you're doing in the meantime.
Yeah, I think like after the kill and like with the shrine thing, like he's a little bit overwhelmed with the creature's senses. So he's going to just like follow its instinct, and I think its instinct is telling him to like hunt. So he's like following a scent of some sort.
No, I like that. Do a hunt roll. You can have 2 dice just because of your current circumstances.
That is a 6.
Nice, you get your token. You follow the creature's instincts into the village. I think that you are not able to really process everything in the village. You can tell you're in the village. You can tell that there are cottages and things, all quite dilapidated, but the details are fuzzy. But you can tell you're in the village. You see a well, you see a stable, you see some dilapidated cottages. The thing that is most clear in your vision is the mill that Hester's mill is named after. It is a large 2-story round stone structure with a red shingled roof. There's a big door. Something has been painted or scrawled on the door, but for whatever reason you can't read it, but you know it's there. And there is something atop the mill. You can see it. It is massive. It has the appearance of a large 15-foot tall crow. It's surrounded by smaller crows, but it's just like the heads. And they are nestled inside this nest of thick, oily black tentacles. And the large central crow opens its mouth, stares at you, opens its mouth, and the terrified scream of a man comes out. The man screams, "Oh my God, help me, help me." And the large central crow creature begins regurgitating. A half dissolved man, a soldier, begins coming out of the crow's mouth. The skin is melted away. The bones are melted away, or the skin is melted away. You can see the bones. Half of his face is just like skull, and his eye is hanging out, and he's screaming in terror. And the central crow finishes regurgitating him down into the smaller crows who tear him apart. It is a very similar scene to what we saw in the time shift that Rasay saw. And it's just there. And it sees you. You see it. And I'm going to give you the condition. You have the condition lust for vengeance. You want nothing more than to kill this thing. Meanwhile, I think let's just take a 5-minute break. We'll come back. I think before we leave that scene with Diane as the Black Fang stalker, I think what kind of happens at that point is I think you just become kind of overwhelmed, and I think you just sort of lose yourself into the morning, and the creature just takes over and stalks off to whatever it's doing. Who knows? Maybe we'll have some flashes of that, but I think you've seen the thing you need to see, right? And Korkaluk, you're just spending the night in the shrine, it sounds like?
I'm spending the night barricading things.
Okay, very good. Let's talk about the creature, because as Blaine noted, you do get to roll some gold dice here. So whoever wants to roll the gold dice, you're going to be rolling 8 gold dice. So roll those up. We're looking for 6s.
Dion, you murdered it. You should have the honors.
Basically, the roll is determining what I left of it.
Yeah, precisely.
It's an interesting concept. If one were like a beast bitten character is an option for your background. If one were beast bitten and used your beast bitten skills to destroy a monster, should you have fewer remnant particles of that beast?
I guess it just depends. I don't know.
Find out. . Wow, that is a single 6.
Okay. Corkalik, you're there with it, so I'll let you define what you're able to scavenge from the creature. What do we got here?
Cats want to play with the dice.
I'm picturing that one of these black tentacles has, in its sort of death throes, spiraled into a perfectly beautiful sort of descending spiral, almost like a seashell, but out of a squishy gelatinous material.
Oh, how interesting. Boy, what do we call that?
Tentacle Nautilus?
Yeah, like
I was going to go tentacle.
Yeah, tentacle, spiral tentacle. I like that. Let's just go spiral tentacle.
Speaking of body parts from beings we destroyed, I believe that I should be removing from my character sheet the yellow liver because I think I fed it to a bear.
That is correct. Yes. Absolutely. And good. What are we going to call these things?
How about Hester's Bane?
Oh, I like that. Yeah, those are good.
Inside the shrine.
Yeah. Do you agree to that, Blaine?
Sure. Yeah, I was thinking of things along like how to get the Greek plural of pose involved. But Hester's Bane works.
Love it.
Corvipodes is probably where I would have ended up.
Okay, so I think as long as you don't molest the statue or otherwise try to go down into space, Korkalik, you will be okay for the night.
I'm not going down there until Diane has returned to his normal self or the sun has risen, and I try not to get a beam of light on his face to refresh him.
Yeah, indeed. And I think the way this goes is that the next morning, Diane, you find yourself actually quite close to the camp, which means you're fairly close to the shrine. And as soon as your senses come back to you, all you're aware of is being in darkness and using your hands to physically tear away a fleshy cocoon. And you are just ripping out of this thing, almost like you're being born into the world anew. You tear it open and you stand up and you are a man, you are naked, you are covered in viscera and gore, and you are standing there in a discarded Black Fang stalker skin that you have just torn your way out of. And as soon as the first ray of sunlight breaks the horizon, you are back in the shrine. And the two of you are in the shrine. You have returned to your body, Diane. And
you know the
good morning.
people do with their fingers and twine?
Sure. Yeah.
You are that times 20, fingers and toes.
Yeah.
I've been spending the night entwining your fingers.
Tangled up, yeah, that's good. Well, so let's have that scene. Role play.
Blaine, I think you're muted.
Yeah. Diane was just exclaiming, what? Well, that was an interesting experience. But, quick look, it seems you survived the night.
Yeah, but prove it's you. Really you, Diane? I don't buy it.
Well, if I was still whoever was inhabiting that creature, then I wouldn't be able to tell you what happened to our friend, what's her name again? Rias?
Rissé?
Risay? Yeah. Risay, she almost had a flagstone drop on her head yesterday.
All right, it's really you. I'm glad you're back. And I'll start untwining, spooling up all the twine wrapped around your fingers and toes.
That's all going. Yeah, then what? I should
So
be done doing that.
somebody took over your body for a while last night, and he wasn't very forthcoming with details. I don't know his name. He seemed very confused on being both here in the shrine and also actually seeing the evening sky and the moon. It's a case of kind of grand memory loss, as far as I can tell.
I do believe that he is usually that creature, so I swapped places with him. I guess he doesn't usually have memory of the transformation through whatever reason.
How about this? Next time you plan to swap bodies with another human, just let me know. I'm a mannequin and I don't quite get the nuances of human nature. I could use a little help here.
I can say fairly safely that if I put a bloody hand on their face, I'm probably swapping bodies with them. That might be a good clue to, on the off chance that I don't get the chance to warn you.
All right. I feel like I should pull out a tiny little notebook here and all right. Bloody handprint to face equals bodies have been swapped by humans.
Indeed. Well, that was a good scene. So what's your next plan here? What's the what's going on? I think probably by the time you maybe tear into your hardtack and get your things ready, it's maybe half an hour has passed. It's very, very early morning, like probably 6 a.m, quite early.
I've got two things. Thing number one, I would like a recount of how your evening was spent. We can probably skip verbalizing most
Yeah,
of
we
it.
can just, if Blaine's cool with you knowing all that, we'll just say
Before I do that recount, if I look outside towards the mill, do I see anything on top of it?
No.
Interesting. I don't know if Diane would keep that, though. Yeah, he'll recount everything.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll keep it to yourself. You humans are dastardly secret keepers.
Sounds like you're not, though, right, Diane?
No.
Yeah.
No, I think he was probably just a little bit shaken and is now kind of paranoid about it. Probably is like, whenever we're outside, we just see him occasionally taking a glance at the top of the mill.
So speaking of crow beasts, I think there's another one of these Hester's Banes underneath this shrine that we're in. You'll notice that I've strategically piled plinths and statuary over the trapdoor. There's probably another one down there.
And who knows what they're guarding.
True. And then if you say you shed your skin this morning, can we sell that pelt in town? That seems like that might be worth something if you could guide us back to that.
We can certainly see if it's still there. I don't know what the as yet unnamed individual would do with it. They should be waking up at the same time I came back, I'd imagine. But if they do this every night, they've got to have quite a pile of them by now.
So, I want to do a quick check-in where everyone's at just in terms of their characters right now, ruin, tokens, all that stuff. So Korkuluk, it looks like you're up to 4 ruin, is that correct?
Yes, 4 ruin, 1 token.
Okay, I don't have a token noted.
Yeah.
All right, so you have 1 token. And Diane, you have 4 ruin and 3 tokens?
Correct.
Okay. How much gold does everyone have? or possible gold if you sell things in town?
Currently 1.
1. That is not nearly enough.
No, I am probably going to be spending at least 1 token shortly.
And I have 1, well, I'm bearing for the moment the 1 gold of, I'm assuming it's worth 1 gold, the tentacle from the slaughtered Hester's Bane.
That is correct. So you both have 1 gold. You have 2 gold between you. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yep.
That is nowhere near meeting your burdens. So you better start finding some treasure.
How do you feel? Should we try and investigate what's underneath this shrine while it's daytime? Does that make a difference? Should we try to go back to this encampment and hope to find your other half?
I don't think whatever's in there is going anywhere, so perhaps we should go see if we can get a hold of that skin. Or barter for it, perhaps, if he's not willing to part with it, if we think it's valuable. And then maybe we come back with a plan for how to deal with these, whatever's under there.
That's a good point. If this, I don't know if it's a person, a being, if this Black Fang stalker is willing to help us, you seemed in that form quite efficient at destroying these. We might be able to learn some good knowledge about how to deal with them in the future.
I don't think he's going to be able to help us in that fashion until nightfall, at least. Probably can't even get inside as in that form. The trapdoor isn't that large.
Of knowledge, if he's been stalking them for, who knows how long, he might know special techniques, weaknesses.
You were stuck with him all night. You didn't think to ask him?
Oh, believe me, I tried. He was vague and evasive and not super duper helpful.
I suppose we can try again.
You've been inside of his body, if not his mind. I was hoping you could provide some insight on his status and motives and desires.
Yeah, would I have picked up anything from that, Jason?
He wants to kill that thing that he saw on top of the mill.
Mm-hmm.
That's about the extent of it, I think.
Yeah. And actually, another pertinent question along that, would I have, felt anything that made the beast afraid?
No, but I think the most salient thing you would have picked up on is the fact that the beast was seeing the thing atop the mill for the first time.
Interesting. Just meta-wise, I was narratively trying to see if maybe I had a reason to have the weakness of the beast.
Oh, no.
Okay. Fair. Just, that's what I was going for. Yeah.
In terms of lunar cycle, are we at a particular point in the lunar cycle right now?
In the lunar cycle?
The lunar cycle, is this thing atop the mill only visible by the light of the...
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I don't think you have enough information to know that yet. That might be something you can find out, but I think at this point that's still a little obscure.
Was it actually a full moon, or was it just...
It was pretty bright in the sky, very near fullness, if not full.
Okay. Yeah, so I think we'll go see if we can find our mystery man and maybe get a hold of that skin. Because, wolf pelt's pretty valuable. You
could very easily backtrack to where you were. It's not far. And you will see the man, now dressed, breaking camp. You will go to the spot where the pelt was, and all you see is just, it almost looks like it's melted into some sort of pool of liquid nothingness, just there's just little bits of fur, a tooth or two, and it's all just sort of it's just dissolving, basically. But you see the man. Yeah. Assuming you're not being too inconspicuous, or you're being even just a little bit conspicuous, he will turn and see you, right?
Right.
Mhm, yeah.
Before that, I'm just going to take a moment to pry the bear trap off of the backpack. Punch it back
Yeah.
to the Dion's backpack.
Yeah, you could. Yeah, everything can return to a state of normalness, I think.
I don't think Diane even noticed at this point.
Right. Yeah. He'll turn and see you, and he will recognize you, Korkaluk, and he says, "Ah, Construct. I was wondering how long it would take you to come find me."
It's good to see you again. You look a little better than last night.
Hey, what's that supposed to mean?
whatever body I was in last night, and he's making literal eye contact with you, Diane, was, well, rather unclean, unfit, and unworthy.
Yeah, and yours was flea bitten.
This is, well, I don't know what that means, but I've just washed myself off, and I feel refreshed and ready to continue my quest.
This fellow sounds a bit noble or privileged in nature from word choices.
I think that's a fair assumption. He doesn't look it, though. He looks like a vagrant. I mean, his traveling clothes and traveling cloak, which you didn't have time to really go through before you were interrupted by a bear, are not in great shape. You did notice before you saw the bear, though, that there was armor there. But he has the armor covered by his shirt. He's not making the armor obvious.
It seems like you've been a warrior in these lands for some time, struggling against a dark foe. Tell us more about how we can help you in your quest.
I have only just arrived, friend. I don't know yet what I'm going to find. I know that this land is cursed and needs to be purged, and I intend to be the one to purge it. And I suggest the two of you leave. There is naught here but pain and misery, death. Not that matters to you much, I suppose, Construct.
Exactly. We are quite skilled in purging, and for the right amount of coin can assist with perjury. That's not the right word. With helping you rid the land of this pestilence.
I am certainly entertained and amused by your offer, Construct, but I think I am more of a solo act, if you will.
A lone wolf, you might say.
A lone wolf. What an interesting way of putting it. Yes, I suppose that's right. He's putting that bandolier on and kind of positioning it so the hands aren't visible, like they're kind of more towards his hip and back.
It's an interesting accessory you've got there.
Yes.
Especially for one who accuses me of being dirty or carrying around disembodied hands.
Says, I found my camp in quite a state this morning. Not sure what happened. Something came in the night and destroyed things. I must have slept right through it. Was that you? Did you come and destroy my camp?
Why would I destroy your camp?
I don't know. Why would you be out here in these cursed lands, wandering about, looking for work from me and literally no one else?
I mean, if you know somebody else who's offering work out here, send us their way.
I have no coin for which to pay you for your services, as helpful or meager as they may be. I simply have to focus on what I'm doing. I am perfectly up to the task. I bid you both farewell. Please, you should leave. The road out.
You've not yet met. You have met me. I'm Korkaluk, the construct, as you choose to call me. But, you two humans have not yet introduced yourselves to each other. So
I possess no particular desire to get to know your friend.
Feelings mutual.
And yet I feel like I know you very well.
You might say we are of a certain kinship.
I took a few notes last night, if you'd like to confer.
Is there something he's getting at with that, or?
Oh, no.
Just
He knows something, damn it. I'm gonna pull out the little black swirled tentacle that we've kept as a trophy, and say, tell us more about these and how we might thwart them in the future, please.
That's an interesting thing. Let's take a... This feels like it's a hunt roll or a scroll. What kind of roll is this? You're asking questions of the character, kind of asking questions of the world. But I think it's a hunt roll. So, and using the tentacle justifies the second die. So go ahead and take it. 2 dice.
Five and a 2.
Take your token.
All right.
And he takes it and he says, I've seen this before. Something like it. This is very interesting to me. I think that it is a clue. Perhaps something that might be useful to me in my hunt. I'd be happy to pay you for this, if you'd like.
For the low price of 8 gold, we could part with that.
I can, well, so, okay, to be clear, in fiction, we don't refer to gold, that there is no, it does not represent a specific amount of currency. It's an abstraction.
I'm overvaluing it.
I see what you're saying. You're asking for a lot of coinage for this, right?
Yeah.
He says, I have a small sack of silver, which I'd be happy to hand over for it. And that's like, I think he'll give you a little more than you could probably get in town because it's very important to him. So maybe 2 gold worth of silver.
I will look at Dion.
Diane has no objections to you selling that if that's what you're going for.
All right.
And I have to reveal something terrible to you. And I will tell you this. As you're up close showing him the tentacle, you get a better look at his armor down the neck of his shirt, where it's kind of opened a little bit. You can kind of see. And you know enough about the history of the place to know that his armor, which is like chainmail, has affixed to it a little plate that is the crest of Lord Galdrin. It's the crossed sword and sickle crest. It's in very good shape. You would expect it to be rusted if it came from that time, but it's in quite good shape. It's been cared for, clearly. And he claims to have just arrived in this land.
Yeah. There's a lovely statue just down the road of this glorious being holding a sickle, which one sees everywhere in this part of the region, but also a sword, a different pairing of symbology, if you will. And I see your armor fashionably shows the same design.
I found this on my way. I found it under some rubble. I took it, and now I'm wearing it.
Do you know anything about
that makes no sense on its face because it's in such good condition.
Yeah. So for some in the history of this land, they might see this symbol as the symbol of a heretic. How do you feel about such statements?
Oh, that's good. I like how you're kind of twisting his things a little bit here. He'll say, "Ha! Heresy. Everyone always wants to talk of heresy and heretics. It's preposterous. The whole thing is preposterous. The sisters, the saints, the gods, all of it. Let me tell you about the sisters. Let me tell you what you should know of them. They are a lie. They are a lie, and I have known of this lie and studied it for many, many years. These stories, Saint Hester, Saint Exodius, Saint whoever, they're just stories. These women never existed. They are a soothing tale that people tell themselves. But even worse than that, I think that they are an active deception. A deception by the dark things of this world. The dark things that wish to walk about unnoticed. They work through them, these sisters. Cast off your holy symbols, for they are but useless bits of metal.
It's an interesting view. I don't know that it's one that I share, but perhaps it's time
Perhaps we should go to the tavern nearby and share a drink and have a lively argument about it.
I was in the middle of saying perhaps we should take our leave of you.
Oh, I like that idea as well. Please, I wish you good luck.
One more tip for you, since you seem to spurn our help so much. Perhaps you should check out the view from the top of the mill.
Perhaps I shall. Good day.
Parting words for those who strive against the darkness that might guide us in our success?
No.
All right.
He's happy to be done with you.
See you later, weirdo misogynist dude.
He just doesn't believe in the sisters. I don't think it necessarily makes him misogynist, right?
Okay, got it. It seemed like I took it on a broader blanket.
He's a jerk, that's for sure.
Shall we just sally forth to the next thing? Also, a question, just make sure I understand. In this set, we're learning the secret history of Hester's Mill.
You have not learned it yet.
5 locations that we could view: the campfire, the shrine. Are they all within that set?
Yes, the campfire is part of it. The road, being on the road itself, is part of it.
Okay, so we could go back to the shrine and find out what's below, or dig into the village, or the farmhouse, or the gallows hill.
Or you can spend 3 tokens and satisfy the goal immediately.
Oh, true. I have 2 tokens.
I need more gold, so I'm sort of holding my tokens for that. I guess I could spend 2 tokens to get 2 coin worth of, and then I could spend 1 and you could spend 2, and we could do it that way potentially. That's an option anyway. I do kind of want to see what's underneath the shrine, but I don't want to go it in a stupid way.
I was hoping we would get some knowledge, like they're allergic to thistle or something, and we could throw a fistful of thistle into the hole in the ground and be fine.
That requires going back to town.
We're not going back to town yet.
I mean, we could just set ourselves up in a way to have the advantage on it. It is currently in that building, which gives us the time and space to stage.
That is true. I think we are probably it's a little early, but I think we're probably at a good stopping point, because this might be when Rasay comes back. Like Rasay coming back, like, because since you're on the road now, it might be a good chance for the 3 of you to reconnect. And we can figure out what Rasay was up to that night, which may help you make some decisions about what to do next. So,
okay,
if you're both cool with that,
yeah.
All right.
Awesome. In that case, let's do stars and wishes. Stars are things that you enjoyed about the session. Wishes are things you hope to see next time. And yeah, I'll say star. I like how you started to explore last week's wish. I consider these sorts of intra-party connections and story making to be y'all's business. It's not mine. My business is the incursion. So I was happy to see you all kind of begin to make that connection, but I fully leave it in your capable hands otherwise. I enjoyed the basic tension of the session. I think the tension was, we were operating like at a real particular level of tension, like at almost every moment. And I really enjoyed that. And I also thought that there was some really good creative problem solving going on. Some of your ideas about like how to deal with certain situations were very fun and evocative, and I could see that going. And the bear thing was a highlight. So don't know what it means yet, but I like that scene. Wishes, I do hope you all go down below the shrine. The sort of like pièce de résistance of this particular set is below the shrine. So this top side is like not as important as what's down below the shrine. So I hope you all do that. Yeah, those are mine. Whoever wants to go next, go for it.
Yeah, I also really enjoyed the bear scene. That was a lot of fun, especially like the evocative the bear shared its breath with you. That was a nice turn of phrase there.
And before we leave that, sorry to interrupt you, can we talk about, like, I think this is good for the viewer too, the way theme has worked so far in this incursion, because we have the overall theme is harvest, but it frequently has expressed itself in like this idea of birth and motherhood, and like providing food to young, right? Or providing food to people. And so of course we see it with Malfast, like the puking the soldier up so that the little crows can tear it apart or whatever. But and also in all just the smaller ways. But also I thought the bear moment was good, because the bear was like kind of doing like the demon does, or the crow creature, its name is Malfast, out of character, in that it was like breathing into your mouth, right? Like it was doing a similar sort of thing, but it was providing a different kind of sustenance, which I thought was really intriguing. So I just want to kind of highlight that as a trophy thing. But just I like the way the theme is going. Sorry, continue playing.
Yeah, I liked that, and then I also sort of like that moment when you were like prying like still tied in that same thing where it's just like, which finger should I use, the porcelain one or the twigs? That was an interesting detail. As far as wishes, I don't really have much of anything. I think we had a really solid session.
Brian, any stars or wishes?
Yeah, there's an ongoing great sense of texture and honestly smell. It sounds strange to say that, but you know, I feel like I can smell the environment, and that's based on our word choices. The bear scene stood out for the notion of, it's funny, but I'm starting to embody the mentalness of being a mannequin, of being this not human being, and to have a living, breathing being in your face, breathing back the yellow bilious liver breath that I would assume to a human is not a delicious odor, but to a mannequin it's sort of like, oh my god, I've been breathed upon by something with the thing that I helped murder just prior. That's neat. It's building a lot of depth of sort of mental character for something which is not human. What else? I got to admit, when Dion shed the skin of the beast, I was like, oh my god, that is a pelt we can just chuck over our shoulder and sell in town.
I was ready for that because I have run this before, and everyone goes for the pelt, or they try to.
Yeah.
But there's the basic fact that he goes through this transformation and is reborn every morning, and
Yes.
so there would be literally a giant pile of these pelts, right? And
Right.
so yeah, they can't be.
That leads to a little bit of off-camera chatter, is that in the moment with the bear, Blaine was debating over pulling a tent out of the backpack, realizing that means I'm essentially pulling the one tent from this campsite, and then instead chooses a bear trap right before you describe a bear.
That was pretty good. Yeah.
It wasn't verbalized in what the audience is hearing, and yet it was there on the text chat
Yeah.
surrounding this. And then I had a similar statement of, all right, I'm picturing the pelt hunter who has the ability to grow and shed a skin every day, and they go back to town saying, look how successful I am as a hunter, and all they're doing is just eating an enormous amount of calories and transforming it every day or something.
I think what's interesting to know about the Vagrant is, I don't know if it came across or not in my interactions with you both, but I don't think he is unstuck in time. I don't think he quite understands where or precisely what he's doing, right? Because there was a hint that he had cleared this campsite a long time ago, right? Like there was evidence, we talked about that, like it looks like this is like a prepared spot, right? Like it's been prepared and been that way for a while. And yet he claims to have just arrived. And and so everything like kind of indicates he doesn't really know what's going on here, and yet he clearly has been here. And I think that's an important thing. And also the fact that he's wearing this armor, which does not temporally make any sense, or at least he there's no way he just found it, right? There's a lot of like, there should be like a strong sense of, it's a strong sense of like, in a way, like he's being born anew each time, and he's kind of, again, going back to our theme of like birth, like he's anew every time, and like he's sort of experiencing it, like, and I think his attitude, at least the way I role play him, his attitude toward you is almost like a defense mechanism, right? Like he doesn't know why he's doing what he's doing, and so the only way for him to like deal with you is to just put on this like this attitude, right? To avoid showing that weakness. Anyway, that's how I imagine him. So. Sorry about that. Any other stars or wishes?
All right. Wishes. No, really. The story's going wonderfully. So just look forward to seeing more of it as it unfolds.
Fantastic.
Circle back around and say, I wish to see what Jen makes of all of this next time around.
Right. Yeah. Well, we'll have the video to share with Jen.
Yeah.
So, and I think it'll be fun to see. I am actually, that's another thing I'd wish for. I'm excited to see, because I haven't thought of it yet, but I'm excited to see like how that love letter goes. So a love letter is just like a little, it's a love letter from the GM to the player, or to the player character, where you're saying, while they were doing this, you were doing this, and tell me what you did. And then usually there's a little die roll attached to it just to stand in for all of the actions that were taking place that night with Rasay. So I'll kind of set it up like, this is what you were doing, and now I'll make a die roll to see how that turned out. And then that helps us. The results of the die roll will be like how you meet Rasay and what Rasay has to offer and what happened, right? So just, it's a way of like accounting for the character's absence, and then, but also like they did something useful, right? They were out there doing something. So yeah. It's a neat little trick, comes from Apocalypse World. Awesome. Well, I don't have anything else. So I'm going to go ahead and end the recording. For people watching, I hope you enjoyed it. Have a good one there.